Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 55.
Everyone has things they are passionate about.
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
So we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can get just one more person
to join us on our hill to die on. Right, we got to keep moving because you're keeping me from Picard. Star Trek Picard started up again, Ryan.
Oh, so you want to talk about Star Trek?
Well, I mean, Star Trek Picard started again. Luckily, they're airing it in Japan simultaneously. Star Trek Discovery is airing in America, but not in Japan because CBS and Paramount have their own plot against the rest of the world.
You mean their own streaming service?
Well, yeah, they have their own streaming service, yeah. So I don't quite understand. They're going to start up a Paramount Plus service in some countries. They delayed the international rollout of Discovery everywhere, even in countries where they don't have Paramount Plus slated to be launched, like Japan. So we have to wait. I don't even know how long we have to wait, but apparently we have to wait. So in a time where there's actually two new Star Treks airing at the same time, which is like the first time since Deep Space Nine and Next Gen has been on. No, well, Deep Space Nine and Voyager, I guess.
Yep.
I can't watch both at the same time. But oh well. Episode 2 of Season 2 of Picard just came out, and I haven't had a chance to finish it yet. So I'm very curious as to what's going to happen.
Well, I'm going to warn you, it's probably going to be a while before I get a chance to actually sit down and watch it.
Because you haven't even watched Season 1 yet, have you, of Picard?
No, I've watched Season 1.
Okay, good.
I just haven't seen Season 2, but I know that it's going to be some time before I get a chance to watch it because...
We've got some other things going on.
Well, I have so much media that I'm trying to work through right now. And yes, I have a lot going on. I have a lot on my plate. And I'm trying to keep up and not drown in it all. And most of it is self-imposed stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many books that I want to get through this year and trying to balance them with the books that I need to read due to somebody assigning me books to read.
More books. Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of books to get through. I have all of these podcasts that I want to, or I have to edit. I need to edit. I do have the podcast that I want to listen to as well. I have a bunch of games that I'm trying to work my way through. And then I have a couple of my side projects that I'm working on. There's just not enough hours in the day to get everything done. So, Nate, I need to ask you to do me a favor.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do something about laws of nature, physics?
Slow down time?
Give me a time turner or something?
No, can't do it. Wouldn't mind that myself.
Yeah, I really feel like I just need another 24 hours each day. And I'd actually maybe get everything I want to done.
Yep.
Just need some more time.
Another Star Trek thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking for a while on Yahoo Auction for another Star Trek figure. So I have a collection of Star Trek figures. I do wonder if some are my brother's, but apparently I ended up with the collection, which I'm fine with. I have a collection of Star Trek figures that I've played with as a young kid, and I now have them. And I let my daughter start playing with them. A little nervous about that because there's some nice small pieces that can be lost. But you know what? I'm not playing with them. They have no value. Well, some of them might have some value, but you know what? I don't care.
Some of them might have some value if they were still in box.
I know if they were still in box, but really no. So, some of the pieces might get lost, but it's fine. I did not realize how lopsided the genders were in the figures that I owned. I probably have 25 figures, and there are 4 girls in that count. 2 of them are the same, just a different attire. And these are action figures, so it's not like you take their clothes off and dress them. These are G.I. Joe type action figures.
Mm.
Of the 4 girls, one of them is an enemy, so they don't even count her. It's like, no, they can tell. They can already tell that Commander Sela is a Romulan, and yeah, we're not going to play with her. So I was looking at that, and my daughters, they play with Counselor Troy and Dr. Crusher, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked on Yahoo Auction, and there are a few females that are going for sale. And of course, they're not going for too much, unfortunately. So I bought one the other day. I bought an Ensign Ro action figure for all of 500 yen.
You say unfortunately. I mean, it's fortunate for you, but...
Yeah. It's unfortunate for the ladies, yeah. Catherine Janeway is probably holding some value.
Oh, yeah.
Because I haven't seen one of her. And if I found one of her, I would definitely consider it. But I haven't seen one in Yahoo Auction right now.
But what about the price?
Well, it depends on how much it would be. Because I'm not sure I am committing a lot of money to this.
Really? I mean, what if it was like 5 mon?
Oh, if it was 5 mon, I'm definitely not buying for $500-ish. No. Well, again, because I ordered this Ensign Row figure and I gave it to my daughters and said it's for everyone to play with. And then, of course, they immediately opened it up because it was a unopened, new inbox figure. A 30-year-old figure. I said, yeah, sure, straight open it up, no problem. What's a toy if not to play with?
And quite honestly, let's be fair. No matter how much time passes, I don't think Ensign Row is going to, accrue a whole bunch of value.
No, not really. And even if she would, that's fine. It's fine. They can play with her because all my other ones are all open too. It's not like I sat around collecting these Star Trek figures, new inbox. No. They're all opened and all the pieces are out. Even my youngest daughter was showing me that there are some scratches on the Counselor Troy figure where some of the paint has rubbed off. And I was like, wow, look at that. Yeah. We actually have played with it enough that it's being scratched off a little bit. It can be touched up if we really wanted to.
Yeah, if necessary, they can go through the Toy Story 2 treatment.
Exactly. I mean, what's interesting is my daughters haven't watched Star Trek yet. So they don't really know any of the characters, only what I've told them. Mostly because they're just not interested, and I don't feel like I will show them Star Trek if they're not interested. I want them to like it on their own if they choose to, and they might not ever choose to, and oh well. I hope they do at some point.
Well, the difficulty is getting them interested if they haven't seen it.
I know. Well, I'm a little bit hesitant because I don't want to scare them away from it. My older daughters are probably ready.
Mm-hmm.
I want to wait till they can kind of understand some of what's going on. A few years ago, I showed my oldest daughter the first episode of the Mission Impossible TV series, and there was a little bit too much to explain, and then she got a little bit frightened about some of the things that were happening there. That scared me away. I was like, okay, wait a minute. There was too much to explain because it was about the Cold War. So I had to explain what the Cold War was and things like that. Nuclear weapon scares and things like that.
Well, now you just point her to today's news.
I know.
Too soon?
Yeah, too soon. I don't think Star Trek will require as much explanation. I mean, there's not historical context to explain, unless you're watching the original series, maybe. But still, I want to make sure it enters well.
Now, here's the question. When you first show them Star Trek, what do you start with?
I know.
Enterprise, right?
Enterprise. No, I think I might end up starting with the first episode of Next Gen.
Of Next Gen, okay.
Yeah, Encounter with Farpoint. And then working my way through the episodes that we're going, in the order kind of we're going. Skipping a bunch in the middle, right? Because after they've watched the good ones, they can fill in with the rest, I think.
Yeah. You need the first episode of Next Gen to understand the rest of Next Gen.
I mean, it sets up Q.
Otherwise, I probably wouldn't recommend that first episode.
Exactly.
No, the only reason I said that was, for example, do you start with Next Gen?
I am. You don't need the original series to understand Next Gen.
No, I was more thinking like either Deep Space Nine or something more recent or Voyager. Or...
The biggest problem with the recent stuff is that it's not age appropriate for my daughter still.
Well, yeah.
So I'd have to wait longer to get them into that, which I think they could, but I'd have to wait longer.
You're saying that for not just the most recent stuff, but also like Voyager, Deep Space Nine?
No. I think Voyager, Deep Space Nine could follow, but I think Voyager and Deep Space Nine might need some more context.
Deep Space Nine needs more context. Voyager
can stand on its own because it's out in the middle of nowhere. And I've heard people have started with Voyager and liked it from there. And I think that's fine. But I think, to me, I like Next Gen better, so I'd just start there.
Yeah, I think it really depends on what their style of storytelling leans into.
Well, you need to know what's going on with the Maquis and the Cardassians.
I guess you're right.
I don't know if you need to. It would help.
They kind of have a quick sum up thing in the first episode, if I remember right.
That's true. They have a crawl that explains it.
Yeah, never mind. I forgot about the crawl.
But I don't know if you really need to know, because I think they tell you everything you need to know. The crawl tells you that the Maquis is a rebel group.
Yep.
And then you understand all the conflict that's going on there. That's all you need. You don't need to know why they're a rebel group, because you know what? They have to get over it right away anyway.
Because again, once they're sent far, far away...
the actual conflict doesn't matter anymore.
Yep, because now you have to work together. I just think, depending on whether or not your daughters feel like Next Gen is moving too slow, because it is heavy on the conversation, heavy on thinking, heavy on conversations to decide what happens, and like we've discussed several times, leading from the boardroom, because it leans into that and all things that I love about it. If it feels too slow to them, it might be something that could be considered. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, no, I think some of my daughters will like that a lot. I'll have to see. So maybe you're encouraging me that sooner's a better time than later. Maybe I'll need to see what I can do.
So I just want to tell you about the game that has completely absorbed my life for this past week.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
When this episode actually officially comes out, the game will have been out for a long time. But for me, I got a copy of this game this past week, which is a little sad because it came out like a week and a half before that. I was eagerly waiting for it to arrive because I had ordered a physical English copy of this game, and so I had to wait for Amazon to be good about delivering it, and it was taking forever. Anyway, I digress. So, the game that I've been playing lately is probably the game that everybody had been playing, and that is Elden Ring. It is made by the same people who make Dark Souls and Demon Souls and all those games, and Bloodborne. So the normal Souls type game, you go forth into the world, you are fighting against all these medieval monsters and whatnot, and it is designed to be very hard. I've talked about these games before. The big change between the previous games that are built like this and this one, this is now an open world.
So you can waste a lot of time, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, use a lot of time, sorry. Enjoy.
No, enjoy, yes. But yeah, so much time can be just gone. Because here's the thing with games like this. They like to stick and tuck little secrets away in mysterious corners of the world that you can only find by exploring really thoroughly and talking to everybody and doing all these different things. And when you have a world that is giant and open world, and they've added jumping into this world so you can actually now explore vertically in addition to horizontally. Yeah.
Do you need all those things to complete the game?
No, you don't need all those things. Now, does Ryan need to do all those things to feel like he's completed the game?
Mm-hmm.
That's a better question. And the answer to that is probably yes. Because in addition to everything else, there are multiple endings to these things, and based on what sort of side quests you've done, you can probably get different endings. But I'm really enjoying this. The action is very well built. The sword fighting is very kinetic, I guess is the best way to put it. You can feel it has weight behind the movement. But I decided that this time, because of the way that they designed this game, they designed it putting a good emphasis on the magic system as well. I thought this time I'm going to go full in on magic and play it as basically a wizard. All in all, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the exploration of this world because I want to explore everything. I want to find all of the secrets. I want to go, oh, what is this behind this corner? Oh, there's a secret cave behind this waterfall. I should go and check that out. And it's so easy for me just to have hours upon hours disappear. And so you know that thing about where I was saying that I have too much media to consume and not enough hours in the day?
This is the one taking all the time, huh?
This is not the one taking all the time. This is the one taking all of the time that I haven't dedicated to my productive free time. So there's the productive free time and the non-productive, I'm just going to let my mind turn off kind of free time. So the productive free time, I'm still getting things done. The free time where I am allowing myself to like kind of chill out and turn my mind off, yeah, that's pretty much entirely this game right now. All right, so you said you had something that you'd like to talk to me about.
Well, in my programming project that I've been working on, my software, it started with somebody coming to me and said, well, the school would like to go in a direction where we can get results from the standards that are entered in. Like, we need to be able to have software that says that we're working toward our standards and to our student objectives.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, oh, yeah, my software can get there. And I was thinking about how to go in that direction. I can get us to a point where we're at least starting to collect the data, by next school year, but we might not have all the reports ready right away, but we should be able to have the reports ready by the time that we need them ready. So anyway. And as I was thinking through that, we would need to be able to connect standards to any assessment, whether you're grading the standard or you're just connecting it so that it can be part of the reports later on. My software has 4 types of assignments. It has score and binary, which really are basically the same. In fact, binary should really be a checkbox of a score type assignment, really. But anyway, I have them listed as 2 types right now. And then I have standards-based, and then I have observations.
Mm-hmm.
Observations are just basically long comments that you can enter for people. But really, in those types of assessments, there's really only 2 types. There's score and observation. And everything else from score is just options. Whether or not you're scoring standards, whether or not you're scoring the score as a binary, all of those are really options of score. They're not different than score. They're just options of score. So I didn't catch that before. Now that I see that, now that it's clear to me that that's the difference, I really want to change the interface to update to be that. But I'm stopping myself because it's a system that's not broken. And I have too many other systems that are not broken, but I have too many other systems that are not complete. So I can't work on a system that's actually working, or at least still most of the systems are more complete than they are now. So I'm really holding myself back, but it's hurting me because I keep looking at that and saying, no, I need more work. But I don't think it fully came out until I sat down with a staff member recently and said, really, there's only 2 types of assessments. The only difference is in how they're all displayed. And it's a difference in how they're all displayed. And I think I need to think through it a little bit more because now one checkbox might change how things are displayed. And I'm not necessarily sure that that would be clear when somebody's clicking that checkbox. So I need to think through that too. Like, do I give a checkbox a lot of power like that? The type selector has a lot of power. You can tell when you're changing types because things change later, right? I need to make sure that if I'm changing the way that you select those kinds of things, that it's still clear that there's an equal amount of power if you check this box. Things will change when you check this box. Right now, even if you switch between the current types, some of them will delete your scores because it says, hey, you're changing types here. I can't keep the scores if you're going to change types like that. So I will need to make that clear too if you click some checkboxes like, hey, this is going to change the way the scores are. Your scores might be deleted after clicking this checkbox. So I still have some things to think through, but now that we've been using the system almost a full school year in the secondary, the assumption that I made of types of assignments, I think was flawed, and I will need to reconsider that. Hopefully to make things more clear. The biggest reason I want to do this is because I want to have standards. Right now, you can only connect standards to standards-based assessments, which makes sense right now. But if we're going to need to be able to connect standards to any assessment, even if you're not grading upon the standard, then I need to have that standard thing show up all the time, and that's just going to be confusing. I want to have a little bit more there so that it's clearer. I have some more to think through about that. It's an assumption I made early on that is probably not right.
But the big thing is that you don't want to really approach it right now because there are bigger fish to fry.
There are bigger fish to fry, and it's killing me that I can't spend time on it. I want to spend time on that because I see it as a whole. I see it as something that's
needing to be...
Yeah, it needs to be adjusted. Yeah, and I would like it to be adjusted before next school year perhaps, but still, that leaves me the summer, and that'll be fine because I should be able to finish up all the other things that need to get done before the summer ends also in the summer. So actually what I'm trying to do is convince myself that I can do it during the school year because I keep thinking, oh, it's probably not that hard. I could make these adjustments pretty quickly. And that's probably true. I probably could make the adjustments pretty quickly, but at the same time, I should probably spend the time to think through them to make sure I know exactly what I'm doing before I make them so that I have a pretty good plan in place. So anyway, it's killing me that I can't make the changes, but I think I really do need to sit and ponder it some more.
Yeah, we have some interesting things today.
Got some interesting flavors.
Yeah, I think you provided both of these.
Yes, I did. I provided both of these. And some warning on the drink. There was sediment on mine, which could possibly be promising for it. Anyway, the drink we have today is peach espresso and kelpis.
Oh, yeah.
So how can peach be espressoed?
I'm not sure.
Well, I am wondering if they're just using it as marketing or if it actually means something in this case. Yeah, I had heard that espresso means pressed. So do you think it's possible that they pressed the peaches?
I doubt it. I think it's probably going to be more of they're thinking of espresso like the coffee espresso.
Mm.
I don't think that this is just going to be full of pressed peaches.
Yeah. Well, pressed peach juice is what I was thinking.
That would be very impressive.
It's 10% peach juice, so more fruit juice than we normally get.
I might actually avoid scurvy this week.
Well, actually, what I'm wondering is, if it's 10% peach juice, how much are we going to taste the kelpis in this drink? I guess that's my question. I'm wondering if it's just going to be more of a peach smoothie-ish kind of thing. So anyway, let's see what this is like, huh?
That is a strong peach smell.
Very strong. Very light on the kelpis.
Yeah. I'm not tasting anything but peach juice.
But I would say that the peach juice isn't amazingly sweet, but it's very good, right?
It's good.
I think it's a pretty good peach juice. The kelpis is very faint.
If anything, it feels a little thin.
The peach juice?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it feels thin compared to peach juice. It's thick compared to kelpis.
I guess I was just thinking of it like peach juice. It feels too thin to me. But if I'm thinking of it as a kelpis, yeah, it's more flavorful than low bar.
Well, I would say that this is the strongest flavor in a kelpis we've had, probably.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I like this.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, how much do I like this?
I think I'm going to go as high as 8.
That's higher than I was.
I'm a pretty big peach flavor kind of guy, though. I think I like it actually because it's thinner than peach juice. Sometimes I feel like peach juice is too thick. That's kind of why I liked it. But anyway, that is my opinion, so.
No, I think that it's good, but because it's too watered down for me, nah, it's only a 6. It's good, nothing to write home about.
I was looking back on all the kelpises.
Yeah.
And I always rate them higher than you.
Yeah.
Every single one of the past few kelpis ones.
We've talked about how I feel about kelpis.
Yep.
I think this is one of the higher rated kelpises that I have, though.
Actually, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The fact that it goes above a 5 is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only other one was the green apple.
Green apple made it to 5. I think what wins is the fact that I like the peach flavor. I think the kelpis ruins it.
Nope, I think this is one of the ones I like. I have no idea what the espresso still means, but still, it's good.
I think it's solid 6. So let's talk about the snack of the day, though.
Yeah, the Kit Kat I brought is very weird. It's cheesecake Kit Kat. Cheesecake in Japan is different than cheesecake in America. Cheesecake in Japan is often fluffy, more like a souffle or actual cake. It's rarely as cheesy as it is in America, unless you buy it from Costco, but of course that's like buying it from America. And I guess the taste is the same. How they prepare it is different in Japan. The taste is the same. So I bet you the Kit Kat taste is not going to be too far off, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
The taste is going to be the same, so the taste of a cheesecake Kit Kat would be similar to what I'm expecting.
I think what you're trying to say is the fact that based on how they prepare a cheesecake in Japan, the texture is different.
Yes.
But the flavor is the same.
So I'm thinking that Kit Kat might be what we expect. It is a very white bar, though.
It is a very white bar. I mean, what did you expect? It's cheesecake. Did you expect a yellow bar?
Black. No, I didn't expect yellow or black. Well, I'm actually very pleased that it's not neon yellow, if anything, yes.
All right. Shall we try?
I don't know if it tastes like cheesecake, but it tastes pretty good. It tastes like white sweetness.
That is so descriptive.
I know. It's a very sweet Kit Kat. It has hints of cheese, but I don't really taste it.
Taste it with the front of your tongue, like the tip.
I mean, that helps a little bit taste like cheese, but not much. I'm not really tasting the cheesecake.
I am. And the question is, how do I feel about this?
I have hints of it, but it's not strong, right?
It's not strong. But my question is, does the flavor detract?
I think when I taste it, it doesn't detract. But I think the problem is there's just not much taste outside of sugar. So I think for me, I'm going to score it pretty low.
I think it's not going high for me either.
Not that it's bad. It's just, I think I'll stay at a 4. I don't think it's low as a 3, perhaps, but I think I'll go with a 4. There's not enough taste in general. It's not as good as a regular Kit Kat, that's for sure.
Yeah, agreed. I think I'm also going to go with a 4.
Mm.
It's a light flavor, but when I do taste it, I'm not thrilled about tasting it. And so for me, yeah, I think it's a flavor that I go, I'm good with this not existing. I just noticed that, so for me, since the beginning of the new year, 6, 6, 5, 4.
We're going down.
I'm on a downward trend. I really hope that my next one is not a 3. Although I will say the peach drink after that Kit Kat tastes better.
So we decided for this episode that we'd pick 2 media that have military or quasi-military organizations in them. It's a pretty wide topic, but we wanted to have something that we could talk a little bit about, and we couldn't talk about our favorite dragons, so we decided we'd go with this.
We can't talk about our favorite dragons?
Actually, maybe we could have. But anyway, another time. We can save that for another time.
There's a few dragons that I can think of, but, I mean, everybody's just going to pick Smaug.
Not Pete's dragon, Elliot?
What about the dragon from the Neverending Story?
Oh, yeah. I was thinking the dragon from Shrek, too.
There's a lot of dragons in media.
I'm sure there'll be more dragons in our media coming up.
There's always more dragons.
And I'm going to say, too, that on the table are all the media that we've already discussed in the podcast about, like Star Trek, for instance, quasi-military. Edge of Tomorrow, This Is How You Lose the Time War. Some other good media that we've discussed that have military organizations in them.
I was personally trying to avoid anything that I've talked about before because at the end of the day, I want to continuously bring up more things that I haven't mentioned enough yet. If I've mentioned it, I think I'm fine with it, but if I've spent a significant amount of time on it in an episode, I'm trying to share that love.
Mm-hmm.
That's at least where I was landing. You can feel free to diverge from the way that I'm doing that too.
No. I'm only picking new ones. But I think I will pick ones that you will have a lot to say on as well.
Well, then why don't you go first?
Alrighty. Then I'm going to take the one off the board right off the bat with Ender's Game. Ender's Game is a very interesting book. We'll leave it at book.
What are you talking about? It was never any media besides a book.
The movie was okay.
There was no movie.
If you're someone like me,
there was no movie.
Who only liked the Ender storyline really anyway. The Valentine Peter storyline was a distraction.
No movie.
Or if you're somebody like me who wasn't angered at the fact that Bean wasn't well represented.
No, Bean was represented. They destroyed his character.
That's what I mean.
No. We're going to talk about this because you brought this up now. They have destroyed Bean's character in the movie because they not only merged Bean with several other characters, a lot of who were flunkies, but then they took away like everything that made Bean and only gave Bean a couple of catchy lines. They took away the fact that he was designed to be a brilliant person, a runt of the litter. They took away his entire personality, who basically
You have no feelings on this, Ryan, right? Anyway, let's get back to the book.
Yeah, the book. The only media that exists for this.
So yeah, Ender's Game. It is a story about a boy who is taken away from his family and brought to a military school to learn some military tactics, but he has a natural tendency toward good military tactics, which is why he was brought to the school in the first place. They knew he was going to be like this. So anyway, it is a very interesting story about a boy who learns about his strengths. And then there's a bunch of other side stories too, like Bean and Valentine and Peter and stuff like that, which are good, but I like the Ender story the best.
Well, I mean, one of the things that you should always remember, though, is that if you prove yourself as a brilliant person on internet forums, they're just going to give you the power of the entire ruling the world, basically.
Yes, that is how it works in the book.
Yeah, you just have to show how right you are. using internet forums, and then they'll just hand the keys to the world government to you.
That's part of the reason why I didn't like those storylines. It is a good book because there's a bunch of twists.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's dilemmas. There's some very nice ethical dilemmas that come up. Very nice. Very...
well presented.
Yes. Ethical dilemmas that come up that you question also. That's what makes it fun too. It's a good book. It is sci-fi, but I mean, again, I love sci-fi, so I can't say this as much as others can, but I have heard that this is a book that non-sci-fi people love. I know that when I was in 8th grade and we had an author project and you had to read 2 books by the same author, I picked Orson Scott Card and I read the next book in the series that I hadn't read at the time, and then an Alvin Journeyman story that was very disappointing. And then somebody else in my class also read Orson Scott Card and read Ender's Game, and I'm not sure what the second book she read was, but I did not peg her as a sci-fi person. Mm. And I think she read it because my 8th grade English teacher was a sci-fi fan, and my 8th grade English teacher said, you should read this. And she loved Ender's Game, and I don't know what she read second. She might have read Speaker for the Dead second, and that's also an excellent book.
Yeah.
Has another great set of ethical dilemmas that are fun to ponder. Yep, Ender's Game's a good book. People who don't even like sci-fi, I think, will generally like it.
So those books have a very special place in my heart because I read them a lot growing up. Until I graduated from high school, they were probably my most reread book. Mm-hmm. I loved that series. Now, do I have feelings about where that series went in the long run? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
But that does not detract from the fact that it's still a series that holds a very special place in my heart.
I think we're probably going to have to bring this book up as a main media at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Please bear with us and listen then.
Yeah. I'm just regretting because I know that when we bring it up, I'm gonna have to go into detail about why I hate that movie. There's more than just Bean that is the reason why I hate that movie, but we'll talk about that then.
Alrighty, what do you pick, Ryan, now that I took probably one from your list? Did I snipe it from you?
I can pivot very easily on this topic because there are lots of things that deal with military or pseudo-military organizations. For example, I could very easily tell you all about Final Fantasy VIII and how it's a great game, and it's based solely around a organization called SEED, which is basically a bunch of kids who, I say kids, they're like high school age who somehow end up as a mercenary paramilitary organization that gets involved in land wars all over the globe. Very interesting, very fun game, but that's just the premise of that game. I could talk about that.
But you're not going to choose to, huh? So those last 2 minutes didn't count.
And I will talk about that because growing up, I played a lot of Final Fantasies. I know you would never be able to tell by how much I talk about it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
But I played a lot of Final Fantasy growing up. And Final Fantasy VIII has a very special place in my heart as well, in addition to all of the other things that we're going to talk about. But you are a character named Squall. And Squall, first of all, fights with one of the most impractical weapons that has ever been in a Final Fantasy game, called a gunblade.
It's like a bayonet?
No, it's a giant sword with a rifle built into the sword. So it looks like a giant sword with a revolver the size of your 2 fists together on the base of the sword. It did have a really cool mechanic when you hit with your sword. If you pulled the R1 trigger, it would do extra damage because it would be as if you were pulling the trigger on the gun while you were slicing. Anyway, I digress. You are part of this military group that will regularly be called into various countries that are undergoing some sort of crisis. So at one point, right at the beginning of the game, you're going through your training mission on whether or not you get accepted into the official military organization. You're a student at that time, and you're trying to pass this final test to become part of the elite group in this school, which is really weird because you're a bunch of basically child soldiers. And I know that sounds crazy, But in the world of Final Fantasy, for some reason, that makes complete sense, because all of these games, whenever you look at the ages of the characters, they're all like in their late teens, early 20s, and they're the ones who are always saving the world. So, you know.
It's better than the 5, 6, 7-year-olds in the Ender's Game.
And you're going, why is this literal child getting involved in this war? I digress. Early in the game, you're trying to get accepted into the elite group, and so your test is they send you and the rest of your class as a landing party. The cutscene is very D-Day-esque, let me be honest. Like you landing on that beach and running out of the beach. Yeah, very D-Day-esque. Again, you are trying to liberate a town that has just been taken over with you and the rest of your classmates. It's a weird game when you approach it from that angle. I will say that, keeping in mind that it is Final Fantasy, that being the premise, it gets weirder from there. So, Final Fantasy VIII, I rambled about that for far too long. But yeah, cool game.
My second one, I'm going to have to choose another humorous story to match with the book we're reading. I'm going to choose Galaxy Quest.
Okay.
Never give up, never surrender.
With this fine ship and this fine crew.
We're going to have to do this one as main media sometime also.
Again, we need to find somebody who hasn't seen it.
I know. Who hasn't seen it? But still, if you are somebody who likes sci-fi, you need to have at least watched Galaxy Quest once. And I love the people who say that it's the best Star Trek movie because it's pretty close. There's some pretty good Star Trek movies now, but this is one of the better Star Trek movies, and it's not about Star Trek. It's about something that is very close to Star Trek, but it just makes a farce of the fan culture and things about Star Trek. So, yeah, it's a very good movie. You should watch Galaxy Quest. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it a lot. Well, I mean, they make fun of all the tropes. Like, there's a guy called, what is it, Red Shirt number 5?
Yeah, Guy.
That didn't even give me a last name, man. I'm supposed to die before the first credits.
You ever think that maybe you're the plucky comic relief?
I mean, they got some great actors in that movie. I mean, Tim Allen does excellently as the captain. But they got Sigourney Weaver. Tony Shalhoub is hilarious. I mean, even guy number 5 is Sam Rockwell.
Alan Rickman.
They have Alan Rickman, plays Alexander Dane, as the alien with the head makeup.
By Grabthar's hammer. What a savings.
Yeah. Anyway, very good movie, very funny. We will have to do it sometime. Mm-hmm. But again, it is one of the better Star Trek movies.
You don't know if there's oxygen out there. Seems fine.
The floors are so clean.
The ship was this big.
It's such a great comedy. They make fun of a lot of stuff, and they make fun of a lot of sci-fi culture, which is the best part. I mean, you're making fun of yourself, basically, which is the best. You're not making fun of other people. You're making fun of yourself, which is great.
It's the only thing that I ever make fun of.
Yep. Fun stuff. Galaxy Quest. Go watch it.
Mm-hmm.
What's your last one?
I want to bring up Hogan's Heroes.
Okay.
I don't think I brought this up before.
So we did pretty good. We got a book, we got a movie, and we got a video game and a TV show. Good.
Yeah.
So we got one from each thing. So good. Hogan's Heroes. Yeah. Excellent.
I don't think I've brought up Hogan's Heroes too much on a previous podcast, but I grew up watching a lot of really random TV. One of the shows that I really loved watching growing up was Hogan's Heroes. Now, Hogan's Heroes is, for those who don't know, about the most comedic of all places, a prisoner of war camp in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
It is a comedy where the prisoners in this German prisoner of war camp doing various shenanigans from within the camp to undermine the German side during World War II. They had built tunnels underneath their bunk. They would sneak out and help smuggle people out of Germany, and they would do a whole bunch of different things. Two of the larger parts on the German side were Colonel Klink and Sergeant Schultz. Sergeant Schultz was their prison guard, the one who was to watch their barracks. Now, Sergeant Schultz caught on to a lot of things that they were doing, but he never reported it for one simple reason. He was constantly afraid that he would get sent to the front. And so by manipulating him, they would constantly just get away with more and more and more. And so every single time he would just walk in and go, I see nothing, to try to avoid getting himself in trouble. So he would walk into the barracks at one point, and there was a woman they were trying to smuggle out of Germany, and she was wanted by the entire German army at that time. And he just walks in and she's there, and he's like, what are you doing? You are going to get me in so much trouble. He was competent, but also able to be so easily manipulated, and it was great dynamic between him and his fears of getting sent to the front were just great. And the other main character on the German side was Colonel Klink, and he was incompetence made human. In an early episode, one of the first things is a scene where Klink is talking about some event that's happening, and during this entire conversation, every time he turns his back, Hogan does something like slip the pin out of the cigar box and steal a whole bunch of cigars from Colonel Klink, and do various little things like that and get information. And when I say they have tunnels underneath the camp, I mean tunnels that are far better built than the entire rest of the camp. At one point, they talk about how they have a massage parlor down there. They have all sorts of mechanical doors and things like that. They have a radio signal that is based in the flagpole of the camp. It is a situational comedy that is just hilarious on so many levels, but I just really enjoyed it and want to give it a little bit of love because it's been a while since I've heard very much about it.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll have to watch it because I haven't really watched it. So
yeah, I'll have you watch it at some point.
Ryan, you had me read a book.
I had you read another book.
I was having fun reading books anyway, so that was good.
Good. I'm glad. I had you read a book from an author that I've had you read a book from before, too. So last time that I had you read Terry Pratchett, I had you read Mort, which, if I remember correctly, you enjoyed.
I did. And Death makes an appearance in this one, too.
Death is in every one of his books, actually. I say that, but I think there might be one that he doesn't show up in. But most of the books, Death shows up. Because, death happens.
People die.
People die. So I thought, since I'm having you read a little bit of Terry Pratchett, I wanted to give you a insight into another series of these books, and this is one of my favorites. The reason I didn't have you read this one first was because the Death series I actually personally read first, but I really like the Night Watch series. So the first book in the Night Watch series is called Guards, which is what I had you read, and we should probably just get right to it.
Yeah, let's jump right in.
So, as always, if you have not read the book, I recommend you stop the podcast at this point and you read Guards. It is a fantastic book that I really think that you would do it an injustice listening to us talk about it without having read it yourself first. But if you have read it and it's been a long time, I'll provide you with a bit of a summary just to get you caught up and involved in this conversation. Guards is the first book in the Night Watch series in the Discworld books written by Terry Pratchett. These books center around several characters, including Carrot, the new recruit at the time of Guards, an idealist holding notions of the City Watch being bastions of the law and order. Then there's Corporal Nobbs, a small, ugly, chain-smoking former street urchin turned watchman. And Sergeant Cullen, former soldier who is also a rather unimaginative man destined for middle management. And Captain Vimes, their cynical, alcoholic leader of the group. The Night Watch is a group of guards who are supposed to watch over and guard Ankh-Morpork, and especially watch it during the night, making sure that all the crime that is going on at that time is being addressed and taken care of.
Only the crime that's supposed to go on at the time.
That's the fun part. Because the Watch, due to the way that Ankh-Morpork has been run and ruled over the past many years, has fallen into, shall I say, a state of uselessness. The Watch has become an organization that is largely ornamental. Their main roles being to ring the bells, shout out that all is well, and when crime is going on, make sure that they are there after everything is really settled and resolved itself. When a secret society decides that they're not happy with the way that society is currently headed, and so they go ahead and decide to summon a dragon. This dragon causes a number of issues, including several of the well-documented and official Thieves Guild members to get, shall I say, a little toasted, and various other issues that rise about by a dragon, which really shouldn't exist in this world anymore, appearing. With a dragon appearing in their city, Captain Vimes and the Night Watch decide to investigate further and try to figure out what in the world is going on. This leads to them teaming up with the librarian, a ape who actually is also the librarian of the Magical Academy, and one Sybil Ramkin, the eccentric noble who uses her time to breed and raise swamp dragons. With the evidence that Captain Vimes presents, she seems to believe that it could potentially be a noble dragon, but that seems unlikely, as they shouldn't even exist anymore. This all comes to a head when the secret society decides to place a new king on the throne by having the dragon disappear by being touched with the sword from their puppet boy king. This seems to go off without a hitch, and the boy is ready to be put in power. When the dragon comes back, the city is set into a bit of disarray, which ends with the boy king being unceremoniously killed and the dragon supplanting it as the new ruler of Ankh-Morpork. The new ruler demands two simple things: gold and sacrifices. Human sacrifices. But with the help of Errol, their mascot swamp dragon gifted to them by Sybil Ramkin, and a couple of very lucky leaps into the swampy water below, they are able to fight off the new king. And it is only when the new king, in fact a female dragon, seems to have become smitten with Errol that the two leave Ankh-Morpork, which gives the opportunity for the Watch to go in and arrest the secret society leader, the only one who is left after the dragon had, well, burned the rest of the secret society. This leader being once Captain Vimes' old childhood friend, or acquaintance, who had put themselves into place as an assistant to the patrician, ends up dying unceremoniously when Captain Vimes tells Carrot to throw the book at him. And throw the book at him he did. Let's talk about the book, though, because I love this book.
Mm-hmm.
But before I go on, how did you feel about it?
I liked it too, but I'm having a hard time deciding if I liked it more or less than Mort.
Mm-hmm.
The humor in this book was great. A lot of great lines.
Yes.
That just, you expect you're reading one thing, and then by the end of the sentence you realize, whoa, the whole sentence just flipped over in the middle there. Wait a minute. That happens so many times, and it's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is one of the hugest strengths in this book. It's very funny all the time. It kind of reminded me of, to some extent, Dan Morin. Although Dan Morin's humor is different than this. It's not the same, but it reminded me of that kind of like, oh, there's just humor every once in a while in the book.
Yeah. It's the fact that there's humor embedded in the narration, I think, is the big thing.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Right, because it's not humor from the characters, it's humor in the narrator. Which and sometimes it's humor in the characters. One of the things that surprised me, especially compared to Mort, right? Okay, so, one of the expectations I had going into this was that it was going to be the story of a person, right? I didn't spend any time thinking ahead of time that this was going to be the story of the Night Watch, right? I just didn't spend the time to think about it.
Which is very weird to me because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I did say that this is the first book in the Night Watch series.
Oh, you mentioned it, yeah. But I think I figured that it was going to center around a person still, right? Like Mort centered around, in the Death series, it centers around Mort and death, right? But when we started with Carrot, I was like, oh, we're going to be following Carrot. And then, we find out that, no, not really following Carrot. It was confusing to me, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like a bit of a disconnected story. Lots of funny things happening, so still very enjoyable. And then the plot really kicks in the last, hour of the audiobook.
I would say the last 2 hours is really where...
We're going to handle this dragon, right?
Yeah. At about 2.5 hours, the dragon takes over.
Okay. 2.5 hours to go.
The dragon has taken over, has officially been called king.
Yeah, at about that point, I thought it was good. I mean, it was a good change, right? There was a lot of funny stuff, a lot of setting the scene. Even though I had, through Mort, had been to Ankh-Morpork once at least, maybe twice or something. Yeah, I kind of understood the town, but all of the setup in the beginning was great. All of the setup in the beginning was excellent. And then when the plot really starts kicking in, the setup is paying off because you're getting joke after joke after joke of the things that were all in the setup that are now kicking off in the plot later on in the book, where the plot is taking more center stage, but the humor is not fading away at all. And I guess the beginning is set up, right? It's just set up for the end.
Not just that. It's getting you used to the characters. In previous books, because this is technically book 8 of the Discworld series.
Mm-hmm.
In previous books, you have seen the Night Watch. You have seen the City Watch. You do not know the characters by this point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're getting into their head, you're getting used to who they are. That first section of the book is largely about seeing the world for how they see it.
One of the questions that I had in the book was, who is the Supreme Grandmaster, right? But at some point we had heard that the patrician, the current town leader, had faked his own uprisings so that he could continue to solidify himself as the patrician, even though he doesn't seem to be somebody who is taking a lot of advantage of his office. Taking some advantage, it seems like, but not a lot of advantage of his office. He's not totally corrupt. At the time, I was like, well, then the patrician is the Supreme Grandmaster just running another uprising in his own town. But of course, then it flips over to be that it was the other guy. What was his name? Once, right? Which is pretty funny. I thought that was fine. You definitely got a feeling from Once that he was not really happy in his position. So I think it fit very well. And it was a funny change. And that he died by throwing the book at him, which is hilarious.
Once is a character who, at the very beginning, you're introduced to him as him and Vimes grew up in the same area, and he was always the brains behind the throne. So for me, when I first read it, I was always picturing him as kind of the conniving vizier. Think Jafar.
Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy. That was one of the questions that I was like, I want to find this out by the end. I do think the book did a great job in setting, especially even in the setting, adding to the humor. I thought the book did a great job there.
I also really like how this book signposts what's going to be important. So, for example, Errol being able to effectively save the day. It's shown that it's going to happen. Like, over and over again, you're like, oh, they keep bringing up Errol and what's going on and what he's eating. This is going to be important later. Effectively, a dragon being able to go supersonic with blowing fire out its tuchus was great.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He reversed the flame, and so he was shooting fire out his butt. So, really, the dragon saves the day by having explosive farts. And yes, it does come down to sometimes some childish bathroom humor, but you know what? It's still hilarious.
I know, it is. I think there was a lot of humor.
There were a lot of references, too. Because, I mean, even movie references that were made here and there. Do you feel lucky where he was wielding a dragon instead of a gun?
Yeah, you're right.
And then one of the last lines of the book is, here's looking at you, kid.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they have a bunch of movie references in this book.
So I'm hoping that Carrot is coming back.
So Carrot is just a great character, a human raised by dwarves who has the mentality of a dwarf where it's everything is super literal. And, it's just great. All the Night Watch come back.
Knobs and Colon, too.
So the next book in the Watch series is Men at Arms. I mean, pretty much it's all the same characters with some new recruits. So you're saying you're not sure if you like this or Mort more.
To me, I think this book is funnier,
Mm-hmm.
but loses a little bit in the fact that it doesn't have quite of a common thread like Mort does, like following one or two or three characters.
Okay, I get what you're saying. I will give you a heads up then. For future books, it does focus in a bit more on the City Watch rather than spread as much as this one does. Because I felt like this one does spread to a few more people than just the City Watch.
I mentioned it quickly, but I was realizing that the Secret Society, I think that confused me too. Like, how important are these people going to be? I mean, they're important to the plot later, but they're not important.
They're important to the plot.
But they're not important as characters I need to care about, because they all get burned up in the end.
Not all of them. Because actually, at the end of the book, there is still one who is still alive.
Was it Fingers? One of those guys?
Fingers, yep. Yeah, he got away.
My only complaint, and it's minor complaint because things work out so much better anyway, is that at the beginning it was a little hard to follow. Who am I following? But it was all hilarious to learn about all these people, so it didn't really bother me. And then when the plot does start picking up, everything snaps together. So it's a minor complaint. Mort doesn't have that problem, but Mort, it didn't have as many jokes shoved in or finely placed like this one did. So
yeah, I guess if I had to say a big difference between the two, I feel like the jokes are stronger in City Watch, whereas they're still good in Mort. I just feel like in Guards, the jokes are a bit stronger. I think that can be a issue if you don't know who you're following from the get-go, but I personally like Guards more than Mort, but I also really love the character of Death. That's part of why I wanted you to read that one first anyway. And again, Death constantly shows up through every other book.
Yeah, I think it was a good order to read them in.
Yeah, now the question is, if I have you read more Discworld, where do I go from here? Because here's the thing. With the Discworld series, until you get into the really later books, there are 4 main threads to follow, in my opinion. There are other ones, but you know what? There are 4 of my favorite threads to follow. Let's put it that way. There is the City Watch, there's Death, there's Rincewind, and then there's the Witches. Rincewind is actually the main character of the first 2 books. So book 1 and book 2 of all of Discworld follows Rincewind, who is the most unlucky wizard in the world. And then the Witches, the first book of that one is Equal Rights, which was the other one that I was considering having you read for this episode. But quite honestly, Equal Rights, while funny, I feel like Guards is funnier. They're all fantastic books, but I do think that having you read more of these will be very entertaining because you get to find out all sorts of things. All of the intricacies of a world that rides on the back of 4 elephants on top of a giant turtle that swims through space and time towards the end of the universe.
Thank you very much.
All in all, though, I think it's a fantastic book. I love this book. All the characters are really well developed, really well written, and just great. I do love that all of Guards is it takes a lot of the normal fantasy tropes. It takes a lot of the normal fantasy ideas and turns them all on their head. And I just love that.
I think it did an excellent job at that too. I think, that's where a lot of the good humor comes from, but then a lot of the zingers work it well too. And then, of course, the plot hilarity too. So I think it succeeds on multiple fronts.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like I said, this is one of those series that I love. And so it's one of those things where I'm like, I hope he likes it as much as I like it. Because there's a few things where I'm like, okay, I can understand if he doesn't like it. But this is one of those ones where I'm like, I really hope he likes it as much as I do.
Yeah, it was a good book. I liked it. I've got a fun one for you next time, Ryan.
Yeah, so what am I reading next time?
Next time, we are going to finish off the 4th book of the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers. This one is The Galaxy and the Ground Within. We've read the first 3, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, A Closed and Common Orbit, and then Record of a Spaceborne Few. And now we have the fourth one, The Galaxy and the Ground Within, which is a very interesting book. I don't want to say anything because you can summarize this book in one sentence, so I don't want to say that because it's so much that happens around that sentence. That's the best part. So I look forward to having a discussion with you about that later.
And having me try to sum that up.
Yeah, exactly. You can do it in one sentence, Ryan.
Oh, really? I can sum things up in one sentence?
I guess you can sum up the premise in one sentence. The whole plot you can't sum in one sentence. You're right.
Oh, and here I was getting my hopes up.
Go ahead and enjoy it from scratch. I won't say anything.
Sounds good. Well, we hope that you found something nice about this hill that I was willing to die on, and we appreciate all of our listeners coming along on this journey with us. And if you ever thought to yourself, hey, I really like these guys, and I really wish there was some way that I could support them, know that you can. Visit myhilltodieon.com/members for more details. As a member, you can always offer us more suggestions on things for us to listen to, comment on, and watch and interact with. And you can get access to our members-only feed with Not My Hill. Things that we're passionate about, we have feelings about, we're not willing to die on that hill. But know that the conversation doesn't have to end here. The discussion can continue with us through Reddit at the subreddit My Hill to Die On, or by contacting us through Twitter at My Hill to Die On. Or you can reach us by email, which is, to no one's surprise, myhilltodieon@gmail.com. And finally, we upload all of our episodes to our YouTube channel, which is also named, say it with me now, folks, My Hill to Die On. Ow!
Oh, you okay?
No, I didn't need that shin. I really didn't need my shin, apparently. Okay. So, guards.